Good morning, good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to this webinar session. This webinar is focusing on inclusive e-waste recycling, and it is part of a series of webinars to introduce the content of the e-waste challenge MOOC. The MOOC is a massive open online course available to all on the web, which contains the most up-to-date information on e-waste best practices at the moment. And Sonia, the presenter, will introduce more about the MOOC later in her presentation. The MOOC is being developed as a cooperation between the WRF Secretariat. It is hosted by Kio Lowen in Belgium, and it is developed in cooperation with the EIT Raw Materials, the EIT Climate Kick, the World Resources Forum, the ITU, and the WHO. Now, as you will see, the MOOC is structured in mini courses, and the World Resources Forum has contributed to the course number 5 with some of the content that will be introduced today. And it is a pleasure for me today to introduce the presenter, Sonia Valdivia. She is a program officer, a program manager at the World Resources Forum since mid-August on the areas of sustainable recycling industries and life cycle management. Before, she was a program officer at the UNEP Division of Technology, Industry and Economics, and she's been coordinating the Secretariat of the UNEP SECTAC Life Cycle Initiative. She has a PhD in environmental waste management and policies from the Technical University of Karlsruhe and has worked for organizations such as UNITAR, NASEC, INE, and GIZ. I have the pleasure now to pass the floor to Sonia for her presentation.
Good morning. First of all, thank you very, very much for this very kind invitation to present our work. And I am honored to be part of this, to represent my organization, WRF, in being part of this adventure, this great activity that now we see coming live and being disseminated worldwide. So I was also asked to briefly introduce the MOOC in general, and thank you, Francesca, very much for having provided the first general insights. So the main organizations, the organizations that contributed to this, that led the development of this MOOC, have been already mentioned, and being part of them has been very enriching. And just allow me one click, please. Sorry. To change the slides, I was trying to find the click. We share common priorities related to protecting the environment because there is an area of hazardous waste management, chemicals management, and this is addressed in the MOOC. We also cover the areas on clean reproduction processes in this stream, obviously with having in mind the protection of the human health, of ensuring that there are healthy environments for the populations, workers, and in general, all economic operators around these activities, and of course also with the overall aim to contribute to circular economy and the approaches that would lead to increasing the resource efficiency in this value chain. I'm aware, I received a list of the participants of this session today, and that I realize, I see most of you are related, have activities around waste. So we know that it's about almost any appliance, small, large appliance in our households. So they are part of our daily life. And the e-waste is when they become obsolete, when they are broken, when they are not used anymore, what is becoming an increasing challenge in our societies. So we need to act now because there are risks of the exponential growth of the amounts of e-waste being generated worldwide. And we would say this is something that only happens in the industrialized regions and countries because they consume more, but it's not the case. It's happening everywhere, and in countries and regions and populations that are more vulnerable for several reasons, the risks are higher. As mentioned before, well, around these products, we also see that they contain hazardous. Some of them contain hazardous substances, or during the management, the e-waste management, they are produced, and these pose a huge problem to the populations around them. Also, on the other hand, they represent a huge opportunity because there are valuable materials that can be recovered from these e-waste. We know closer some of them, but there are also many more valuable materials that are very important for new products. So most common ones could be mentioned, such as gold, silver, copper. Now lately we realize increasingly lithium and aluminium are becoming very, very much demanded from when treating e-waste in the facilities. So this is the opportunities that we know in the real world. And who is the MOOC for? The MOOC for that has been developed in this partnership is targeting audiences that are dealing or interested in improving the situation. It can be from the side of the e-waste recycling facilities. Obviously, they are in closest contact with these streams, waste streams, but also policymakers at the level of the central government and ministries, but also local governments, who know the daily work and of economic operators, and can also provide develop measures to enhance the operations, the activities, or the conditions around them. Also, experts. We can talk about students, but also experts that provide advice, technical expertise, can do research on the area. So this is a very up-to-date material. The MOOC is providing references that are excellent for continuing and advancing in this area. And healthcare operators, because as was mentioned before, health issues are very critical around uncontrolled e-waste management, and we believe we have all the information. We know the impact on the health of the people, but we still need more research, more attention, more regulations, guidelines, and for these healthcare operators would play an important role. What is involved in the MOOC? Well, the nice thing is that you can start using them based on your availability of time, and you can decide, well, if you complete the sessions at once, or if you do it one by one, and obviously depending on the in-depth dedication, meaning if you want to look at each reference, probably you would need a bit more of time. Or if you think I already know this area more or less, maybe you skip some parts. It's very flexible in this regard. It doesn't stop you from continuing, and also you will find along the MOOC moments where you can check your progress. It's not an examination. We will not give you a certificate or so saying you passed or no, but what the nice thing is you can check yourself, your progress on understanding some definitions or some facts, some developments globally on the topic. So it's estimated that you will need 6-7 hours a week for to complete these sessions. I did already twice at least mine because I wanted to double check the MOOC number 5 on inclusive waste recycling because I wanted to double check the time and I think it's really very user friendly. I invite you to go through this. There are 5 sessions or 5 parts, short courses in the MOOC, and they are in a flow, starting with number 1 and 2 that provides the background, introduction on the global issue, followed by the impacts and solution. Again, it's very general, very capturing global cases. These value chains are global, so we can tap into these examples from Asia or Africa, but also starting with a problematic in Europe, for example, where products are consumed, or in North America. So this is a global context, and this is presented in these 2 first short courses. The third one is focusing on children's health, and this is very interesting, very important too. As I mentioned before, healthcare workers are key target audience, a key target audience group for this MOOC. So there you will find new insights or more in organic presentation of these issues that would raise the awareness and understanding on this very critical topic for the children working in this sector, for example. The fourth one is about more technical aspects that could help designers that tap into the standards and technical guidelines that can give you tools and elements for improving this situation. It also have elements that can guide policymakers when developing guidelines, for example. And the last one is about addressing the informal sector. We call it inclusive and sustainable e-waste recycling. And there, in addition to what was said before, we try to cover more the ways, the tools, the approaches that would help making this value chain more inclusive, because anyways, informal sector is there, and there is a need for working together and, above all, improving their practices. So I think I introduced already more or less what each of the courses are covering, so I will not get into this detail and just show the print screens of each of the courses. And you will see that for each course, for example, there is a more specific definition of target audiences. So this is resulting from also from the topic itself, the examples, and the authors, the leading organizations that work on them. And I will stop here on course number 5 on inclusive and sustainable waste recycling that we as WRF led when developing it, and that I would like to introduce in the next slides in more detail. Thank you. With this, I think you had an overview. I hope you got an overview and you felt motivated to visit the MOOC, or maybe you already did it. And allow me please to continue with the next presentation. And the questions, as I understand, will come after the second presentation. Unless, Francesca, then you think we can get done. So my presentation is not a repetition of what the MOOC is including. It's more an introduction, a background, trying to explain where we come from and getting more into highlights of some of the elements and references that we considered would be new or relevant for moving towards sustainable and inclusive e-waste recycling in developing countries. So they complement somehow and highlight some of the references, I would say. I would like to introduce my organization shortly. The World Resources Forum Association is an independent, not-for-profit international organization, and we serve as a platform that aims to connect and foster knowledge exchange between key players on the area of resource efficiency, circular economy, sustainable management, which are the umbrella topics, and key participants or key players are business leaders, policymakers, non-for-profit organizations, scientists, and the public in general. You might know us for our biannual international conferences. The next one, I invite you from now onwards, it will be in Ghana in 2021. So objectives and takeaways of the presentation of today is to understand the role of the informal sector, worst practices and impacts, as well as good practices in e-waste recycling in countries in transition. As next, also, I will focus on an ISO framework for the sustainable and inclusive management of secondary materials, which was developed 3 years ago, and we see some evolution as of now that I would like to introduce to you. And also, at the end, I would like to explain how the Sustainable Recycling Industries program is contributing to improving the informal sector conditions. We have seen in the previous slide about the challenges, the risks, and also the opportunities of electronic e-waste. So maybe I will not repeat so much from this slide, but I would like to highlight the role of the informal sector in this case. So according to statistics, 2% of the poorest people in the world live from waste recycling. So this is an important group that is helping, is part of the waste economy, circular economy areas in the world, and we cannot neglect them. 90% of waste is, on the other hand, recycled without any control. So, meaning practices that are not compliant with the legal standards, that are posing huge risks and threats to the workers. So this is the main problem, and why we are now with these tools and information and references addressing ways and recommending, proposing examples on how this can be improved. Very specifically, there are uncontrolled conditions that result from various environmental threats. For example, when burning openly cables, which is a practice in open dumping places in developing countries, dioxins are released, among other toxic chemicals. So this is causing environmental pollution, and you see not only it's about the general workers working there, it's children that are associated to these activities in many cases. There are health hazards from leaching activities, so very activities done informally, and in order to try to recover the most valuable metals such as gold, for example. And this also generates toxic substances that are then absorbed by the persons around these activities. And cross-contamination. By having these substances in the environment, then we have also the risk of users being exposed to these children. If we talk about lead in plastics, for example, and many times we don't know if they are compliant with the law. So there is also a cross-contamination case. But not only the environmental part, as I mentioned before, so there are social impacts. For example, child labor is one aspect. Also, the poor working conditions without benefits or without protection for workers is very much spread in these activities. When we talk about health and safety, we immediately think probably of people that are handling the waste during the operation, but it's not only that, it's also about the transportation and the way this is being handled along the value chain, along the life cycle of the product, for example. So in this regard, after having consulted and witnessed these cases, we decided to collect the cases, to articulate them along groups of worst practices, and provide and develop ways out of these worst practices, what we call good practices. This is a publication that we released in 2018. It's available in the website, and it's also part of the MOOC that is now available. And to give you an example on how this is being structured in the document, we have identified a number of worst practices, and for each of them, there are examples in different areas for different product chains. For example, when disassembling compressors, or when treating cables or refrigerators. So there's a number of examples there, and we illustrate what a worst practice means. We felt this is needed because many times if we want to go in this, if we want to show and to increase awareness rating locally in the areas, a picture tells you more than 1,000 words, and this has been very well received in this regard. So once identified cases, then we of course explain, we try to clarify the impacts, the environmental impacts associated to this worst practice, health related impacts also. And finally, we propose steps to good practices, again, with an illustration on how this could be done. So this is more or less the way this document has been articulated, has been presented, and these are the 9 worst practices that were identified. So they are, again, I said it, so they are clusters of worst practices, dealing with poor housekeeping in general, in this case during collection, for example, also non-compliant trading. It's a very new area. I mean, very new in terms of we ignore that also worst practice in non-compliant trading exists. That means illegal trading. We have to say it clearly too. Unsafe manual dismantling, that is very typical. This is unfortunately a very common practice found in developing countries. Low quality segregation. That means by through cherry-picking practices, we lose the opportunity of recovering other materials that are also very valuable. But if economic operators or workers do not know this, then they will continue losing other materials. Low technology and sound melting and off burning. It is about burning materials in order to recover metals that are valuable, but as you may understand, may realize, so this burning is very bad for the environment and for the health of the people. Amalgamation. This is about using mercury in order to recover goal. Other low-tech unsolved chemical leaching is about using other substances to leach the component and then recover the material. Open burning and open dumping are the last options when nothing else can be done, and people decide just to burn them and then leave them on their disposal sites, obviously an uncontrolled place. And the three ones that we are strongly promoting, they're banning, they're stopping, is amalgamation, open burning, and open dumping, and that's why they are in red. So these work practices and recommendations have been captured, have been taken up, and are part of the annex of this very important standard that we developed in 2017, the Guidance Principles for Sustainable and Inclusive Recycling, which aims to guide economic operators of secondary metal value chains in efficient but also credible implementation of improved practices that should include the informal sector. This is targeting economic operators in developing countries. And when we talk about credible implementation, it is also focusing on traceability, meaning that we would be able to track where the materials come from. That's the way to demonstrate that improvements are credible. And this has been adopted already by countries. There are 2 countries that adopted this standard in Spanish, in Ecuador and in Colombia. I've seen that there are participants, or there will be participants in the second webinar next week from these countries. So in this standard, we propose 5 principles. The first one related to protecting the working environment, so to improving the working environment where waste management is happening. The second one is about protecting the natural environment. The next one is about improving relationships or building and strengthening the relationships with the local communities. The next one is related to the quality of the product. It's about improving and recovering secondary materials in terms of quantity and quality. We many times neglect that. This is related to the worst practice that I mentioned before, that when there is low quality segregation, we miss opportunities in improving the quality and quantity of recovered materials, metals in this case. And implementing a sustainable management approach is also a principle, because if there is no system that supports these activities and push them towards continuous improvement, then we miss the track, and we don't achieve mid-term and long-term results, good results, sustainable results. I also invite you, if you have time, to visit in our website, or also available in YouTube, this video that summarizes the work of the ISO. The structure of the document is a typical ISO structure, so I will only like to highlight the areas, the chapters 3 and 4. In chapter 3, we have the sustainability requirements, that are the principles that I already mentioned, and the 17 objectives around them. And in chapter 4, we have traceability requirements, where we propose a chain of custody, but there are also other approaches that can be used. And for each objective, there is, apart from the definition and background information, what is very important for the informal sector and for any other economic operator that considers itself as needing tailored measures, there is a consideration for different timelines for the implementation. These are only suggestions, of course, and very, very quickly, if you see in the first column in the table that is small, but I think it's readable. SA means subsistence activities, the ones that are in waste recycling for survival and individuals. UBA, unofficial business activities that make money out of this, illegal organizations, and OBA, official business organizations, which have different timelines suggested under the standard for implementing the activities. This also is very much promoting extended producer responsibility and responsible sourcing. Collectors in the collection phase and in the waste processing phases, there is a strong participation of the informal sector. About 90% of actors in e-waste value chain, in the waste management in developing countries is done by the informal sector. So this is very relevant, and by implementing these approaches, we can ensure more inclusive recycling. We did pilot testing in several countries. Target countries are Ghana, South Africa, Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. Pardon, Ecuador. Sorry, Ecuador should be Colombia there. And this shed light on a number of issues that we are considering when advancing the promotion implementation of the ISO I1, which is going to be upscaled, and this is news. Due to the need and demand, we agreed with ISO, within ISO, to develop an ISO international standard based on this, which will be about principles for sustainable recovery of materials, of course, including e-waste recycling. The activity will be kicked off in January 2021. And now, how can SECO contribute to this? How can the sustainable recycling industries contribute to these activities? So we are already doing that, helping countries. We have started countries, and from this we expand to others in the regions in order to improve the qualities of lives of people around these activities, the environment, also that is being exposed through these practices, and also in order to provide opportunities, job creation for the economic operators, especially in the value chains in developing countries targeting the informal sector. So the Sustainable Recycling Industries Program builds on the success of more than 15 years of experience working on e-waste recycling, and it is funded by the Swiss State Secretariat of Economic Affairs, SECO, and implemented jointly with by the Swiss Federal Laboratories of Materials, Science and Technology, EMPA, and the World Resources Forum Association. Our current program runs until 2023. And these are the main the components of the program linked to policy, supporting policymakers in developing policy and the legislative framework. The normative component, it's about developing more technical normative requirements. The business component is about professionalization of this practice, training, enhancing the skills of the people in the countries. It also focuses on problematic fractions. We talked several times about hazardous substances, metals, toxic metals. So this is focusing on these problematic fractions and how to provide solutions for the safe treatment of these fractions. An international exchange, trying to develop and strengthen a platform for exchange, and I'm very glad that this opportunity is contributing to this exchange we are looking for. And overall, at the end, to be able to provide global public goods. Our impact then overall is to contribute to a favorable framework conditions that will enable the development of sustainable recycling industries in developing countries, including the informal sector. Our target countries are Ghana, South Africa, Egypt, Colombia, and Peru. And at last, well, I would like to highlight that the program leverages the concept of a circular economy and contributes to actions on climate change. They are strong parts of our activities. And with this, I would like to thank you and remain to your disposal for comments, for questions. Thank you very much for listening.